Hey guys, Skill Sessions here. I noticed that Western propaganda has been increasingly more and more Mickey Mouse and more unsophisticated. What I mean is that from the very beginning, they always try to portray their countries, well, mainly the US, but applies to many other countries as well, as the leader of freedom and human rights, and nobody really questions them, even though going way back to JFK and even before that, things happened like his assassination that could raise questions about the authenticity of whether this society is actually a just one when they kill its own leaders. And this was already warned before by his predecessor, Eisenhower, right? When he was warning about the military-industrial complex and its evil grasp in all aspects of society. And he must have been scared like crazy when he saw JFK be assassinated by this very evil society that he was warning his fellow citizens about. It's frightening that he foresaw it and he was helpless. He couldn't do anything about it, and he saw JFK get shot in front of his very eyes. So it's very hilarious that people still buy into this illusion that the West is completely good and can do no wrong. But I have to admit that the propaganda has been quite pervasive and quite convincing to people who refuse to critically think and who just see things as they're presented and are just brainwashed by it. So it's kind of hilarious that in recent history, people like Trump come out and he's like totally unsophisticated and he says things off the cuff and he's saying some really ridiculous things like trying to marginalize groups of people, saying they're racist and they're just bad people, just outright making out these crazy blanket statements, just trying to be very divisive. And this culminated into this whole crazy thing that they had in January 6th movement, right? Doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on, right? You could tell that the country is going into chaos and just causing all types of grief internally and externally. But the funny thing about Trump is that he made some pretty valid comments. Like, for example, he wouldn't have supported the boycott that happened in the Beijing Winter Olympics. He thinks that's a very cowardly move. And I do agree with him on that because the whole point of Olympics is to set aside the politics and try to have people compete and just live in harmony. If it's only just for those 2 weeks, at least it's a start. And he also mentioned that there were a lot of unnecessary wars that the US was into, and he would end it right away if he was the president. So he does make some sense. So I'm just wondering how evil media is. Maybe people are getting fooled, right? Maybe he is saying some right things and he has some good points, but media is painting him in a bad light and just to get people unjustifiably against him. Who knows what the truth is right now, because the Western media is a very powerful machine. And you can see in the past 2 years with this whole crisis, it has been a total coordinated effort worldwide amongst various countries. How is it possible that all these countries, at least in the Western sphere of influence, they all coordinated to only agree that certain type of drugs can be used, especially those experimental gene therapy ones. They only allow for you to use that. And any other doctors, and they had directives sent from the top down to order doctors that these are the only drugs that can be used. And if you have any dissenting opinion, you will be crushed. If you suggest any alternative therapies or treatments, you will be crushed in terms of you will be banned or you will be fired from your job or you'll just be ostracized. This is frightening, the amount of power, the amount of dissent that has been destroyed. And it's either their way or the highway. And nobody else has an argument against that. And you can see, luckily now, that this is slowly crumbling. In our country, various provinces are starting to say that next month they will finally remove all these mandates for the V. And also, even in our draconian province of Quebec, they were scary enough and they were Nazi enough to suggest taxing the unvaccinated. And luckily they got rid of that. They came to their senses, or they bowed under political pressure. So they got rid of that and they will be getting rid of the mandates for next month. And slowly but surely the truth will come out. All these drug companies are trying to hide and delay the release of their data, which is ridiculous. Anybody with half a brain would be suspicious of that. If their drug is well-meaning and it works and it has good results, why wouldn't they just release all the data? And why are they seeking for blanket indemnities, and it's rarely given by the government? So it doesn't matter if you have suffer any side effects. You're just out of luck and screwed. There's no recourse at all. Under this kind of oppressive backdrop, it's very hard to maneuver. And it's really ridiculous when the people on that side of the argument can do whatever they want. And they can say crazy things and not be demonized. And in fact, the opposite happens. You be looked at as a champion of their rights, which is ridiculous. This thing that has been going on in Ottawa, Trucker Freedom Convoy, they've been making some huge headways because they're pretty much the first ones that spearheaded our rights and trying to get our rights back after the 2 years of going crazy with these mandates and all these oppressive measures. And the irony is a lot of people are brainwashed, and they're arguing that the truckers are the ones that are fascists, which is totally ridiculous and totally not getting the point. They're saying that truckers are ruining their business, when in actuality, our leader is the one that is the oppressive one and has fascist tendencies and enacted all these crazy laws. And most recently with the Emergencies Act, which gives the police massive powers to do as they please to the regular citizens. Even though regular citizens are just holding peaceful protests, they are being arrested without any justification. So it's kind of ironic that a lot of brainwashed people are saying these outlandish things, saying that the truckers are the fascists and the truckers are the ones curtailing their freedoms, when it's the total opposite, okay? The government is the one effecting these fascist measures, and they're the ones curtailing your freedoms and closing down businesses for the past 2 years. Weren't all you people paying attention what happened the past 2 years? A lot of people got laid off from their jobs. A lot of small businesses just simply died because people were not allowed to enter these premises. So it's ridiculous how people are just so stupid and just easily brainwashed. I'm not sure what's happening with Trudeau. He's saying outlandish things and saying ridiculous things and trying to divide society, saying people who are not vaxxed are racist and misogynist, fascist. Totally ridiculous things. What does that have to do with these V mandates and this whole ongoing crisis? These truckers are here just to fight for our freedoms and try to get our society back, try to get our freedom back. This has nothing to do with misogyny or racism. This doesn't even make sense, but I guess he's just trying to say anything just to throw anything against the wall, see if what sticks, against the truckers. And the sad thing is, I'm not sure what happened to Trudeau. When he first came into the political scene, he was a fresh-faced guy, and you can see when he had that charity boxing match with this other politician, the senator. When he won, he was very gracious. The way he was acting in their press conference, because whoever won gets to cut the loser's hair. And he didn't even cut that much, he was very magnanimous, and he was definitely a gracious winner. He didn't rub it in, he didn't do anything like that. So I can tell that his personality is pretty nice. He seems like a nice guy. He was almost like bashful that he won, and he really didn't want to rub the loser's nose into anything and just, gloat or anything like that. So I'm very shocked that he went along with all this thing. Perhaps he didn't want to get shot like JFK. Perhaps he's coerced or threatened with something. He went along with this whole agenda for the past 2 years and affecting all these negative measures that were very harmful to our Canadian society. And you can tell in his face has turned from a fresh-faced, nice-looking man to somebody with a swollen up face. He seems like it's been permeated with evil, basically. Look at the contrast, from before and after. It's frightening what happened. So, I don't know. I hope that the end is coming soon, when more and more truth of the data, of these Vs and the effects, the side effects, and things that are not even making sense come to light, and people finally grasp common sense and realize, hey, there's something wrong here, Something changed, right? Something is very suspicious, and we should talk about it, and we should think about why these things were affected in the first place. Of course, right? I can cite this example of the UK suddenly dropping all these V mandates. I mean, if they were very effective and they were very necessary, why would the leader there care about any political backlash, right? It doesn't matter. If this was very necessary, he would just stand firm and just hold on to these mandates. But he just, did a 180. Oh, we're not having mandates anymore. So obviously, critical thinkers would realize there's something wrong here, right? Why all of a sudden the 180? Why not hold steadfast? Doesn't even make sense. Just like these V passports. Doesn't matter whether you have the V or not, right? You can still contract it, you can still spread it. Supposedly the only argument is that you're going to be less affected by the virus if you get it, if you have the V shot, right? So what does that have to do with these passports? If you can still get it, you can still spread it. It has nothing to do with that. It should be a personal choice whether you take the V or not. Why are you segregating people? Why are you prohibiting people who didn't get the V to go into these places? Doesn't even make sense. And the frustrating and disgusting and annoying thing is that when these mandates will finally be ended next month, all these people who got the shot, all these brainwashed people are threatening, saying, oh, we're not going to go to these restaurants because now there's no longer this passport. And we don't want to be mingling with all these people who don't have the V. Which is ridiculous and shows that they're closed-minded and they're the ones who are supporting oppressive measures, and they're the true fascists. They want to be oppressed. They want to remain brainwashed and remain oppressed. This is just frustrating, I can't believe I have to explain it to people. This is not common sense. It's true, common sense is not very common. And it goes back to my original point. Why is there unsophisticated Western propaganda? Why is it so Mickey Mouse? Perhaps it reflects the society. You're not that saying that people deserve the government that they get. And it's kind of true now because a lot of the population are unsophisticated. They have Mickey Mouse brains. They can't even think properly. So it's just very frustrating, and I just hope that this will finally be over soon and good will finally triumph over evil, if not in all aspects, at least in this major aspect, because this has been very taxing and exhausting on everybody. Past 2 years plus has just been ridiculous, and I just want to put this behind us and hopefully everybody can get along afterwards. Doesn't even make sense, a lot of things, And it's hilarious that friends and family even are having rifts and they will no longer talk with each other because they're on different sides of this V debate, which is hilarious. This is supposed to be just about health. You're supposed to decide it based on health arguments. But this is turned into a political argument because they have turned it into political. It has nothing to do with health or very little to do with health. And it's hilarious. And this started from the very beginning with this Mickey Mouse and this hateful propaganda. They're trying to blame China for starting this whole thing. Okay, let's assume that this is right. Let's assume that this somehow started in China. How the hell did US get the majority of deaths and the majority of infections? The Chinese spread these super spreading agents, put them all on planes, and they flew to all the corners of the US and start coughing on millions of people? No, the truth will come out eventually. There's no way you can fake data on the spread from patient zero to all these millions of people. It doesn't matter how infectious this disease is. There is a logical progression of infection, and eventually the truth will come out, the data will come out, and you see that it started in the US, okay? With all these fake data, they're trying to suppress it. It was like some sort of vaping disease and all this stuff. And there are even claims that it actually didn't start in Wuhan, right? It started in the US military base and they brought it over because they had military games in Wuhan. And that's why, this ridiculous hypocrisy. And never mind that the US has been caught in various lies throughout the years, WMDs in Iraq, right? Lying about that, all these insurgencies, coups in various governments, because they're trying to spread democracy and stuff like that. Really, if they were doing a good job, the world should be at peace right now, but the world is still in turmoil. They've been in hundreds of wars and conflicts. Why? Nobody questions this. It's totally ridiculous. This thing, right? In Xinjiang, right? All these stupid racist, anti-Asian, anti-Chinese haters talking about crap like that. This is ridiculous, right? As if the US cares about Muslims or care about Chinese, but all of a sudden they care about Chinese Muslims? Get real, right? Like I said, Western propaganda is dying because they've been turning into Mickey Mouse, People with half a brain should be able to see right through it and see through and see the actual BS that it's spreading. And the lies and falsehoods Eventually the truth will come out. You can't hide the truth. But the lies, you have to protect it. And that's why there's been this massive censorship in the past 2 years about this whole crisis. That is the very reason why. Not allowing anybody to speak out, not having any dissenting opinions. This whole thing has been a lie. If it was the truth, they would not fear any dissent. And in the coming months and the coming years, hopefully this will be revealed, okay? Just like in the past, the US has been lying and has been shown to have lied. Eventually the truth will come out. And this is what's happening with this crisis. What are your comments? You have any thoughts? Tell me below. That's it for now. Skill Sessions out. Share, like, comment, and subscribe, because you know Skill Sessions has the skills to satisfy.